Rhonda and I just had a week in Portugal. First time I've been here. Been 20 degrees every day. A friend of mine's had a villa for a week, and we've had quite a few people out during the time that he's had the villa. So it's been fantastic and really enjoyable. I think it's so important to charge your batteries. Stressful times in farming, lots of hours and hard work when the time is right. So I think it's really important we charge our batteries, and this is what we've been doing here in Portugal. When you look at some of the scenery we've got here in the sea and some of the things we've done in the last week. Anyway, back to the farm and back to this week's update. So after that fantastic week in Portugal, now back on the farm. But just before we get into this week's update, I just wanted to touch on one or two things that's come in the news. I think while we're in Portugal, Asda put out a tweet that said if we cut out red meat for 1 day a week, that's the equivalent of not driving your car for a month. But then retracted it a few days later or a few hours later when I had a lot of complaints. And it's just the type of things like that that's put out without proper knowledge, and they said that it was a mistake to tweet they put out. Well, yes, it was, but the damage was done, and it's just things like that that really infuriate me. And then, of course, this week we've had the government announce that they want to rewild 300,000 hectares by 2042. That's the equivalent size of 430,000 football pitches, or an area the size of Lancashire. So taking that out of food production, well, we already have the government increasing and encouraging food imports grown to lower standards. Surely if we do that and take all this land out of production, it'll only make that situation even more so, and we'll have more imports with more food produced to lower standards. And don't forget, we already have 1 million acres of land coming out of production and going into houses, going into roads, industries, Heathrow Airport expansion, HS2, all the normal things that you get with a population increase. So, I don't know whether the government realise that the amount of land that's coming out of production already is colossal. And all this, of course, just keeps leading to food imports. And we also have got Asda have come out this week where they have said that they promised in October that they would only use 100% British beef. They've now gone back on the word because they said that British beef is now too expensive. And yet we have Boris Johnson saying that we need to get away from cheap labour. But we have a massive disconnect, in my view, with the food production and supply chain, when we've got certain costs that everybody has, every farmer has producing food, and now we've got supermarkets such as Asda not agreeing to sticking to their sort of promises of using British beef. And it's just this another example of the problems in the industry at the moment. And then also this week, which I welcome, was some new hair coursing regulations the government have announced, where the police can impose stronger and stricter sentences and tougher sentences, because it is a massive problem we have around every area in open land in the country, but particularly Lincolnshire. I think Essex, Cambridgeshire, Leicestershire is really bad. So anyway, on to this week's update. We've got some news on the Manitou forklift. Frankie, come on, here, come on. Decided to have a wander across the field after a partridge. We've got some news on our Manitou forklift, which is great, but we're actually going to be focusing more this week on cover crops and our crops out in the fields rather than machinery. We'll get back to machinery next week. So on to this week's update. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you to all the new subscribers and any future ones. Click like if you enjoy it, and here we go. So starting with the update on the Manitou, those of you who are new to the channel and new subscribers might not know that we had a transmission problem where a huge hole in the transmission appeared while we were using it on the road. Luckily it was a by road and the whole thing stopped, so we've had the forklift out of action for the best part of 6 weeks. But some good news is, everybody, we have got it back. Farmstar and Manitou have done themselves really proud, and the transmission that was in it was a ZF transmission, which I think is from Germany. They've put a new transmission in it. Farmstar had to send off back to Manitou and back to ZF all the data that the computer holds in the machine on how we've operated it. They wanted to check whether we'd overloaded it, whether we'd towed too much weight with it, and really, I suppose, for a start, trying to make sure that we hadn't been the cause of this problem, which we haven't. We don't know at the minute whether we have to make any financial contribution. Hopefully we don't, but here's our Manitou back, MLT 940. 140 Vario Plus, that's the V for the Vario. So it's a really good forklift, 9.5 metre reach, triple boom here when it extends out. So yeah, thanks to Manitou and Farmstar for really going to town on this and getting this sorted for us, and also thanks for the low machine. So good news, I'll let you know on the financial side of this when I know it myself. So last week I said we'd compare the cover crop on a light land where I am again now compared to the heavy land at 3 miles away, and I forgot, so we'll start again. We've got the sheep in the background there. We've got Frankie here having a look as well. Frankie, say hello. Yeah, so Frankie's having a look with us. So this particular cover crop planted 8th or 9th of September last year, mixture of vetch, phacelia, tillage radish, black oats, clover, and there's a few beans in the mix as well. But you can see it's established really well because of the soil type and really growing very vigorously. We've got the phacelia here growing like mad. It really loves it up here, and it's growing like steep. You can see how long it is. Some of it's starting to go down. But we've also got some vetches as well, which are in here somewhere in the bottom when I can find some, which typical I can't. Here we go, there we go, there's some vetches you can just see there in the bottom. Yeah, Frankie, that's it. Yep, so we've got some just there. Frankie's found them. So looking at the rest of the plants, here's the tillage radish. We'll actually dig one of these up and just see what it compares like to the heavy land, and you'll see the difference in the root structure. So if we go down with the fork down there, just bring that one out. There we go. Look at the root structure on that. Gone right down. Really good length of root that. So we'll take some of these plants down to the heavy land and compare them and see what they're like. But just looking at this soil here, we'll just dig a bit more up, just down there, and there we have some wonderful roots and this lovely soil. You can see here, there we've got, there's some clovers, but you can just see here how lovely and light this soil is. Really easy working, lovely soil. So the idea of this is, all we're going to do now after the sheep have grazed this is we're going to plant it with spring oats, and these are a naked variety without a husk. They'll go for animal feed, for pet foods they'll go for, but we're going to plant these straight into this without working it with our Simba drill, which we know we've done it before, it'll work okay. Anyway, we'll go and have a look at the other farm, at the cover crops on the heavy soils. I'm now down on the other farm where we have our heavy land soils, and this is the main farm where the operation is run from, and you can just see straight away in this field how much smaller the cover crops are. Huge difference in top growth, but I know it's not all about top, it's about the underneath as well. But just remember, this field we're at here was planted on exactly the same day as the other field, which is 3 miles up the top of that hill across there. So it was planted exactly the same day, 8th and 9th of September, one of those days. But the difference in the cover crop is incredible. And just when you look here, we've got phacelia here, but just look how much shorter that is here. It's only 6 inches high, that one. We've got the radishes here, really prominent, and the vetches. Here's some vetch. There's quite a lot of vetch you can see down here, but look, really small when you look at that, how small that is. So yeah, just really evident that the heavy land soils really do struggle, and I think it's imperative that these crops are got in really early. But we'll just dig some of these up, if I can get them out one-handed, and just see how much smaller they are. I'll put the fork in there, goes in very easily. Yeah, you can see it bursts the soil out, but when you look, see if I can get some out there. You've got one of the radishes there, but yeah, a little bit of a root, but just see how much smaller that is when you look there. Big difference. And all of the crops in the soil especially as well, look, yeah, there's some nice roots to it going all the way through. If I can get in the light, some nice roots there, but you can just see how wet it is, but a completely different soil type to the other farm. And you can just see here as well how sticky it is, but big difference. But I'll dig some of these up and I'll lay them on the back of the Discovery, and we'll compare them to the plants from the other farm. Just shows here as well, this soil, it's all stuck to the fork, and you can see how shiny it is. But yeah, it just shows how much different it is to the other soil. Nice worm there growing, or rather burrowing just there in the middle of my finger. But yeah, different soil altogether. So I've got all the plants laid out on the back here next to Frankie, but Frankie's actually eating some of them at the minute. But when we just look here, you can see, Frankie, out of the way, there's a good girl. All those there are from the Lightland soil up at the other farm, and all these this side are from this field here. And you cannot believe that those and those were all planted the same day, and it's incredible to see the difference in growth. So when people say that there's no difference in cover crop growth and there's no difference in establishing cover crops on the different soil types, I really do strongly disagree when you look at this evidence. So we'll turn the camera around and we'll just pick up some of these and compare them. So if we start off with the radishes, these are the radishes from the heavy soils, and that is the radish from the light soil. So when you look at it, that's the best I've found down here. And when you look at the difference there, we've got, that is an extra probably 9 inches of growth on it. And of course the bulb at the end here, this one on the right, that one is off the light soil. So yeah, a lot different in growth. So that's those two. Frankie, come out, good girl. Then when we start to look at the Phacelia, huge difference here. That is the Phacelia from the Lightland, probably 2.5 feet long. That is the Phacelia from the Strongland down here, probably a foot long at the very most if you include it to the roots. But just look at the difference. Both of those plants, remember, were planted the same day. I'm just walking down one of our margins, flower margins around the outside. This is the outside of the cover crop field we've just looked at, just checking the feeders, and it looks like the lid's blown off one of our bird feeders, which is not good if it has done and it's had rain on it. I haven't been down here since before Christmas, so we'll just have to have a look. Yeah, looks like the lid's blown off this feeder, which is not good news. It got wet, it's quite empty as well. Yeah, that one's filling up, but yeah, it definitely does. But yeah, just show you how these work. Probably seen before. We've got some air filter outside that we've we fasten underneath, and then the birds just tap it, and you can see the wheat drops down, and the birds peck it off the floor. And the bit of the grill, bit of metal inside there, all that does, it just takes pressure off the grill inside, and it lets the wheat flow down a bit easier. Then another one of our feeders we've got here is one of these bucket songbird feeders. They're all filled up just before Christmas. Empty, yeah, it needs some more food in. Yeah, look at that. So we need to get this, tip the water off, we need to get these filled up again next day or so. Just shows how these sort of areas, it's really quiet here, lovely and still, no wind, it's very sheltered, quiet part of the farm, no tracks, no vehicles, no roads anywhere. We've got a bird food plot there, got about 20 of these dotted around the farm. Winter bird food plot provides shelter and habitat for wildlife. I'll just put that lid back on. There'll just be enough food there to keep the birds going while Monday, when Reuben and Tom come back, and they'll come and do this. But yeah, lovely area here, lovely and quiet for wildlife in this corner of the farm. Just show you along here, this margin, get out the way here of the wind, just in front where Frankie's going. There's a river along here, lovely long grass, we'll leave that, wildflowers in that, we'll leave that, and might just top it to control it, manage it next March, after all the winter, while the birds have had shelter in it throughout the winter. But yeah, here's a river, got lots of little spinnies planted on the edge, you can see just down here, lovely little areas. And again, we've straightened field sides off years ago and got these dotted all over the farm. I'm pleased with our fields that's coming spring crops. This field is due to be planted with spring beans, probably March. It's on heavier soils, but you can see the glyphosate has worked really well here. If you remember a few weeks ago, the growth on it, you can see there, it's all browned off and wizened away. And this is what we're dealing with our black grass. We don't have a cover crop here, and this is why we're just trying it on the other field, which is only just through there that you've just seen. And this field is coming sugar beet this year, and it was beans last year. And we'd normally follow that obviously with a cereal crop to maximise the potential of the break crop and fixing of nitrogen that the beans do, but we haven't this year. And we had it spring beans because the previous year it had been wheat 2 or 3 years, and we needed a break last year, and so it's just that we're short of a field of sugar beet this year, so that's why we're going to have a double break. But we'll probably make use of this next year by having a seed crop in here, because there's quite a few seed companies who are always looking for double break land, so we've got the ideal potential here to make up and capitalise on this double break for next year. But yeah, the beans now are finally starting to go home with the glyphosate. You can see the plants there a little bit wizened up, but the frost hasn't done it any favours, which is good. That's what the beans, obviously it's the frost and the glyphosate, but glyphosate is not very good at controlling beans. It takes a long while, and sometimes you have to put something else with it, but this is starting to go off, which is good. We don't want to cover on this field. It's quite sticky soil, this, for sugar beet. We don't want to cover, we want it bare soil going into the spring so we can cultivate it and get it ready in a decent form for sugar beet. Just back at another part of the farm, just having a look at the feeders, and I can spot straight away there, that bird feeder you can see is on the floor, and it should be up on the stake. So we'll go down and put that on, and then I've got another feeder in here, a different one. We'll have a look at that as well. So these were all filled up just before Christmas with wheat. This one's used a lot. It was full to the top, so you can see there going down in the middle just with standard wheat. And put that lid back there and there. And these are some we made ourselves in the workshop, just 200 litre blue plastic barrels. Put some legs on, and then underneath there got these special metal springs you can get from various organisations, and the wheat drops down so the birds just peck it and then litters on the floor like that. So really, really good. But we'll just go down here. Frankie, come on. Frankie's gone for a wander. We can just see in the distance, that we can see it, there's a cock pheasant running there right in the distance. Lovely there as these spinnies. We've got lots of these around, and it just provides shelter and habitat for the wildlife along with grass margins. So that particular spinney there is only about 4 metres wide, but then here we have 8 metres wide grass and flower margin next to a field, and it's just really beneficial to wildlife. Yeah, look at this. I think it's deer that does this. We have got some deer about the farm. It's brought it off, and yeah, what's done that, Frankie? So we'll bring that upright. Yeah, there is a little bit of left in it, but not much. We'll put that back on the stake there, and then you can see in here, there's the feed, and the birds sit on there, put the heads in, and the beaks. You've seen other videos of we've got these all over the farm. Really useful. Yeah, great little area here. Again, another quiet area for wildlife. Another spinney across there with feeders in there as well. Just really beneficial and helps everything. Wheat after sugar beet, looking really well. First field of beet we harvested in there about 28th of September, and this field was lifted October, November. Just don't like to see these pools of water in the corner. There isn't really any need for it, so we need to do better, as my school report used to say. So yeah, this field lifted in 2 halves, if you remember. We'll have a look at the other side because it's now up, but this part was drilled from memory, probably early November. But yeah, looking good after sugar beet. So this looks like we might have had hare coursers round sometime over the last few days. It's always a telltale sign when you see lots of soil dropped off on the lane like this, where people have walked out of a field, scraped the boots and before going back into another field there. And there's another one of our stewardship wildlife areas. But yeah, telltale sign that is, with mud on the lane, because we don't have any mud on the lane, or if we do, it's picked off straight away. Anyway, here we have another of our feeders, and this is in a lovely area coming down from the area where I've just showed you and just been, where those other two feeders and bigger area of winter bird food cover. You can just see it up there. Grass margin down here, but this is a real good area. There's a lot of pheasants around here and in there and in the yard. So got a feeder here, so we'll just look at this. These were filled up only a few days ago when I got back from Portugal. So that's still plenty in that. But yeah, they are using it, so just normal wheat in there. So of course they peck in the bottom there, and you can just see each time you move that, more just comes out from inside and it lowers that. So keep the lid on, keep it dry, and great food. And the good thing is down here, all birds can use. Just looking at one or two of our other fields of wheat, they're looking really well at the moment. This was planted probably October the 12th or 15th, and it was spring beans last year. That's why it's looking really well. And I think variety of that one I think is skyscraper, whereas this field here is 4th year wheat, so it's wheat for the last 4 years. We do get good yields in that situation on this soil. It's because of its clay content, it's difficult heavy soils, but looking a bit more whiter. Two reasons: you can see the stubble and the straw in it from last year's cereal crop, but obviously that straw needs nitrogen to break down, so it's using the nitrogen that the wheat crop would normally use, so therefore it's looking a bit paler. Whereas when you look at this compared to this one, it's looking a lot greener, because the spring beans from last year is leaving nitrogen, which this year's wheat is benefiting from. And lastly here, of course, it means that we don't have to give this crop of wheat so much nitrogen as that one, because the beans have left this nitrogen behind for the crop. So again, benefits and savings with having spring beans as a break crop. Really pleased with this. This is the last field of winter wheat we planted at the end of November, and it was after sugar beet, and this was the other half that we planted before, and a few weeks before, and you'll see the line in a minute, dividing line. But really good, because when we went to Portugal 27th of December, this field was brown. There was absolutely nothing come through, and I know there was a few very mild days around the new year, which obviously this has benefited. You can just see the area here where Tom turned with the drill on that's bit paddled, because of course we had up there was already planted. But when you look, you can see the dividing line now down there. So that area to the right there was planted early November, and this bit here was end of November. You can just see the difference, huge difference when you look at it. A little bit bare just here, but if I just turn the camera around and show you the plants there, you can see now all the plants coming. So yeah, this is good. We haven't got anything bare. There's all the crops looking quite good. Got some more sheep arriving to go on the grass that we make haylage from. No, the ones I had last year got out all the time. So no, as what does Jeremy Clarkson say? He hates fucking sheep. It is, isn't it? Brilliant. There we go. How many is there?
There's 80 altogether.
80 on there. So 80 have just coming out. So 220 altogether. Look at that. Lovely site for a bit of mixed farming. Got a cock pheasant there. No doubt going to have a bit of a feed before night time, before he goes to roost. It's a nicely well used feeder, that one, in the trees there. Heading into the yard. So, hope you've enjoyed this week's update. Yes, there's quite a lot of detail on the cover crops and things, so apologise if this wasn't your scene. And hope you enjoyed the rest of the update. So, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next week.